Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Profit Talk. As the name might imply, we do this every single week. We do this Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time, Mountain Standard Time as of this week. That's right, we have fallen back, and now it's dark at about 5:10 p.m., which is depressing, but uh, life goes on, right? So as we wind our way slowly toward the winter equinox. We hope you're having a good morning so far. Today's topic is going to be why private physicians cannot afford political apathy. I want to talk about this because this time of year, the second Tuesday of November, is an election day. Excuse me, so sorry. Yeah, a little rough this morning. So anyway, in odd numbered years, quite often there isn't a lot to vote for. In my particular local area, we've got a couple of state propositions to fund school lunches by uh, enabling a tax surplus and uh, basically asking people to make over $300,000 to cough up a few extra bucks. What it works out to maybe about $400 or $500, depending on the income. Um, and I hope that the majority of my state citizens here believe that's a good idea because kids learn better when they're not hungry. So, anyway, let's talk about some stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my handy slides like I do every week here. As a private physician, election outcomes directly impact three critical areas of your practice's finances. Um, Big one, and we've been talking about this since July 4th and even before when we were debating the OB3, which is what we call the one big beautiful bill. There's your three Bs. Um, this was voted into or signed into law on July 4th by our fearless president. I think that was a Saturday, wasn't it? Oh, it was a Friday, but it was a holiday. But anyway, so Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement uh, situations are in a state of flux. A lot of people say almost disastrous results for millions of people who may find themselves underinsured or completely uninsured as a result of this. So, what sort of effect does that have on you as a physician? Well, the less your patients are able to pay you for your services, um, quite obviously, the less money you could possibly be taking in as gross revenue. And that is the top of the three factors that affect your bottom line. So um, it's a critical situation. Tax policy and public health infrastructure funding, these things are all basically a matter of policy that are governed by the people that we put in power to run the government for us. So elections are important, and apathy is basically very expensive. Around 40% of Americans rely on Medicare and Medicaid for health care coverage. That's sounds like a very large number, but honestly, it's not surprising. I'm part of that quote unquote greatest generation, I suppose. Honestly, let me give that some thought. I think the greatest generation was before the baby boomers. People actually stepped up and fought the Hun back in the 40s. So I'm not quite there, a little younger than that. But nevertheless, um, there are more people turning 65 than 25 in this country every year. And quite a few of us depend on Medicare for healthcare coverage. And Medicaid, no question. There are quite a few folks that are otherwise going to be pretty much out of luck as far as healthcare coverage goes without some sort of assistance. And Medicaid, of course, though it is a state administered program, is also funded by the federal government. So, 4 out of every 10 patients are covered by programs whose rules, reimbursement rates, and eligibility requirements are determined by elected officials. When Congress debates, they're basically debating your income. So the people that are in power are important. And we basically live in a republic. It's not a democracy. Okay, now they say the democracy, but um, I think this was a philosophical idea of the ancient Greeks, which was a government completely administered by the people, but we live in a republic, which means that we elect people to set policy for us and to represent us. And it's dramatically important to choose the right people when we're doing this, based on whatever your particular ideology is. When state legislatures, excuse me, vote on Medicaid expansion or contraction, they're voting on whether your patients can afford to see you. And when reimbursement rates fail to keep pace with the inflation, your practice margins shrink while your overhead costs climb. These things are just natural financial progressions. Tax policy. The people you put in Congress matters. IRS, of course, basically administers the federal tax revenue. Internal Revenue Service is what that stands for. But they are basically governed in turn by Congress. Congress has the power of the purse, as they say. And the power of Congress is considerable. They come up with a stack of paper that's as high as, comes up to about here when I'm in a seated position, about 3 feet tall, every single year. And this tax policy, it's impossible to memorize year after year, but there are a lot of things that remain the same. And of course, we tax experts have the ability and the information on how to research and look things up. That is sincerely more important than using memorization as a party trick, so to speak. But pass-through entity deductions. Now, that is affected and has been affected by the OB3 laws, as well as Section 179 expensing. That actually is, there are some good things for the individual taxes that have come out of OB3, but it has come at quite a bit of cost to millions of other people. But there are, in fact, some considerations. For example, we talk about this almost every week, but bonus depreciation is back, and it's at 100%, will remain there for a few years. So it does not mean that you want to 100% depreciate every single large item that you buy for your practice, but it does mean that the option is there. And if it looks like you're going to have a high tax liability in a particular year when you've made capital investments, it's a tool that you can use to reduce your tax liability. So it's important to get that guidance. Qualified business income treatment. That reared its head back in 2018 with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act bill that was passed. And small business people began getting a 20% qualified business income deduction, which is subject to quite a few funnels it has to pass through. One is that it can't be larger than your actual taxable income, or then the taxable income is treated at the 20%. And it's also subject to a number of other things, including SSTBs, which is Specialized Service Trades and Businesses. That includes you and me, physicians and accountants, as well as some other professions. And they limit the amount of income that we can make and still get that 20%. If you are married filing joint and you make over somewhere around $500,000, chances are you're not getting the deduction. So it's an important consideration. And there are things you can do about that, particularly if you have a multi-entity practice. So again, that's a good place for tax expert guidance. Capital gains rates. These things can change with new tax reform as well. Public health infrastructure. There's been a lot of talk about this. Of course, a lot of this has come from basically cabinet appointments. But again, that results from the result of the executive branch election. So we've got some things going on with vaccinations and preventative care initiatives. Things have changed dramatically since January, and it's important to understand that these things do happen as a result of the people that we put into power. So showing up for elections is important. And I've just written down a few things I'll say out loud. Disease surveillance systems and health equity measures. When funding evaporates, you see negative downside effects, more chronic disease management, more preventable complications, worse population health metrics. These things made themselves extremely um, apparent and transparent during the COVID crisis. Um, there were things that could have been handled differently. And I guess all this is just to say that I'm not here to speak one way or the other about the particular feeling that I have about about national politics, but the main thing is that we can't afford to be apathetic when we go to the polls. It pays to be informed. You get that blue book in the mail, and of course, there's a lot of sources of information. I would shy away from social media, and most of the American news organs, quite sad to say, have some sort of a bias, either extremely left or extremely right. And you may have your favorite, and we've basically got freedom of speech and the freedom to choose, as well as a right to vote. And nobody is desiring to take that away from anybody. But the main thing is to get good, unbiased information and to really do good research into who exactly is uh, vying to represent you. So this is just something that's on my mind at this time of year, and I thought I'd touch on it briefly. 52 weeks from now, we're going to have a very important election. Every single congressperson comes up for election every 2 years, and if you have a strong feeling about the ability for you and your practice to create the sort of wealth that you want and retirement that you deserve at the end of your useful working life, then it's important to understand that the people that we choose to represent us as a very important decision has to be taken seriously. So with that, I just want to have a little conversation about that today. This is not meant to be an endorsement for any one side. If I have alluded to any sort of a bias at all, I apologize, but I like things that make sense. So if that makes sense to you, then you are my people. And of course, I'd like to let you know you're coming to us from, we're coming to you, I beg your pardon, with one of three different media: YouTube, LinkedIn, as well as Facebook. And all three of these have in common the ability to make a comment to this video, whether you're watching this live right now or on replay. And if you would like more information on how to maximize your profits, increase your cash flow, as well as minimize your taxes, let's have a conversation. All you have to do is pop up one of those comments and say help or more info or something along those lines. We'll reach out and we'll book some time to talk. Let's see if you and I resonate with each other. And that first 45 minutes is always free. So the only thing it'll cost you is some time. Let's see if we can do the kind of things for you that you have been feeling like could use some vast improvement. You went to medical school to become a medical expert, not an accountant. So that's what I'm here for. And if I can help in any way, I'd be thrilled to find out. So let's have that conversation soon. With that, have an amazing rest of your day and awesome rest of your week. I hope you're looking forward to Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday of the year. I've got to think about turkey and stuffing. So with that, I'm definitely looking forward to that in this month of celebration of gratitude as well. There is a lot to be grateful for. So if you have a chance today or sometime and the thought crosses your mind, do something randomly kind for a complete stranger. So with that, so long for this week. We will see you next Wednesday at 8:30 Mountain Time. That is 7:30 on the Pacific Coast, 10:30 on the Atlantic Coast. So until next week, so long.